So I think we're all set to get the presentations going. I'll turn it over to Denis Grey with the sky this month.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Paul. I'm speaking to you tonight from downtown Toronto, home of world famous light pollution and all kinds of other things. We've been enjoying a little bit of clear weather, and I'll be touching on that as we cover off some of the highlights of the sky this month today. Just in terms of tonight's agenda, we'll start with the big picture, as I like to, just to sort of give everybody a little bit of a overview of where we're at. And then we're going to go through 4 weeks here in November. The sky this month actually overlaps pretty well the whole month of November, and our next recreational astronomy meeting is December 1st. So all the stuff that we talk about is happening this month, and we'll hopefully have some questions, and hopefully I'll have some answers for you at the end. So just in terms of the big picture, this map, which comes from moonwise.co.uk, shows us the entire sort of night sky starting in the west in the evening and going all the way towards dawn. And it gives you an idea of kind of where we are in the overall picture here in terms of the sky. So you notice, first of all, the summer triangle is getting lower and lower in the sky. We're starting to say goodbye to the summer triangle. And about around midnight, you'll see Orion rising, and then that's the time when the winter hexagon, that extremely large star pattern, starts to show up in our sky. All of the planets, with one notable exception, are in the evening sky. In other words, this is roughly where midnight shows up here. So all of the planets are here, with the exception of Mars, which is just coming around the sun. So it's just leaving superior conjunction, slowly starting to pull its way away from the sun and lining itself up for its next apparition, which will be in late 2022. So we can look forward to that. For those, I'm sure most of you have noticed that the days have been getting longer, and we're at the point in the year now, we're past the equinox. Things are starting to slow down as we get into December. Our night currently, or daylight, is down to 10 hours, which means that our nights, particularly sort of astronomical twilight, is up to about 11 hours per night. And as we get closer and closer to the solstice period, we'll see that time change a little bit. But you notice the difference between now and the difference, and sort of the December is not significant. So really, the rapid change that we see around September is over now, and things now change sort of minute by minute as we go through the year. So lots of daytime or lots of nighttime to take advantage of this time of year. In terms of where we're at, looking and what we're able to see, in the fall, we're generally looking out away from the disk of the Milky Way. We're looking sort of below the galaxy. So the Milky Way is best seen in the summer when we're looking at the dense core of the Milky Way, and in the winter we see the outer part of the Milky Way. It's fainter, but still quite nice, especially on a dark night. And here we are in the fall, and we're looking away from the overall galaxy. So we're not seeing as much in terms of bright star clusters and other things like that, but there's still good things to see, and we'll be looking at it. So just in terms of what's going on, if we look towards the west around sunset, we'll see sort of the tail end of Sagittarius and the Milky Way going down. We see Jupiter and Saturn are heading towards the sunset there as well, and they'll be accelerating, or appearing to accelerate, as they get closer to the sun as the month goes on. We're saying goodbye to Hercules and some of the other spring constellations. So Arcturus in Bootes is almost gone, and that's the sunset view there. And in the morning sky, if we're looking in the morning, The spring constellations are coming up, so we're seeing things like Bootes and Leo, and the ecliptic in the spring is extremely high. This makes this time of year generally good time to see Mercury in the morning, and that's part of. I noticed that Ed T was out there spotting Mercury in the morning, and again, this is kind of why it's good, because Mercury gets further away from the horizon, which makes it more visible for us. Whereas when you're in, if we were trying to find Mercury here, the shallow angle that the ecliptic makes with things makes it very difficult to spot things that way. Now, of course, when we're looking at a sky chart like this, it's a bit of an idealized version of what you can see in the sky. But just to make it clear that I'm not overthinking this a little bit, we need to bear in mind the real situation that we're dealing with here in the Great Lakes Basin in southern Ontario. This is a map from eclipsophile.com. Our friends from the Winnipeg Center who work with weather forecasting for eclipses and so forth have provided this handy dandy chart which shows sort of average cloud cover at night in November. And as you can see, we would, if you really want to get good views of the night sky, the place to be is kind of in northern Mexico or southern United States right now. The Great Lake is starting to get socked in, and judging by the color map there, it's kind of like 70 or 80% cloud. So what does that mean? It means that if it's clear, you should get out there, because you probably won't have that many evenings this month in order to enjoy the night sky. So that's my advice to everyone. So let's look ahead at the month. So first week here, November 3rd to 9th. So November, this initial week of the month is our new moon weekend. This is our best opportunity for deep sky observing and other activities like that. The moon won't be interfering in any significant way until at least the 9th. There is an opportunity. Venus is in the evening sky, and there will be a close approach of Venus and the crescent moon on November 7th. In fact, Venus will be occulted by the moon in parts of the world, not in Canada this time, but they should be pretty close if you're looking at it on November 7th and 8th. Standard time is going to be coming back on November 7th, so there will be a time change. This is the nice time change where you get an extra hour of sleep, and so you can take advantage of that. There's also a dwarf planet opportunity, Uranus, and ISS passes at this time of the year are available, and they are running in the morning up until November 11th, when they will cease for a period of time. So the minor dwarf planet opportunity is the good old dwarf planet Ceres. So Ceres is incredibly easy to spot right now. It's right beside Aldebaran, which is the eye of the bull in Taurus. So this is essentially the head of the bull here, the Hyades star cluster. And tonight, if you can get out, you'll find Ceres is a 7th magnitude speck right beside Aldebaran. So from a binocular trying to find this asteroid perspective, this is about as easy as it gets. This is shooting a fish in a barrel. Now, in terms of where it's going to be spending most of the month making its way through this very rich star field here in the Hyades. And so at any point in time, if you use your planetarium or star chart program, look for Ceres. You should be able to spot roughly where it is. And again, 7th magnitude is pretty easy to pull out. It reaches opposition at the end of the month, and it'll be at its brightest. Ceres, even though it's the largest asteroid, is not the brightest asteroid. That honor goes to Vesta, asteroid 4, but it is still relatively bright as these things go, because it's almost 1,000 kilometers in diameter, and earned the title of dwarf planet. The other opportunity that we have is Uranus. Uranus is actually at opposition right around now, magnitude 5.65. So if you had a really dark sky and you knew where to look, you would be able to see it without any optical aid whatsoever. It's in a pretty photogenic part of the sky between near the Pleiades, M45, and Taurus, so you know roughly where to look. So basically, if you can see M45 and or the Hyades, then you just have to go a little further west along the ecliptic there, and you should be able to spot Uranus. Uranus has a distinctive turquoise blue color, and it does show a discernible disk in most telescopes, particularly when you compare it with a star. So definitely worth getting out there and trying to see if you can spot Uranus this month. Next week following, November 10th to 16th. So the moon gets brighter and brighter, goes from first quarter up to waxing gibbous phase. The Lunar X is slated to be seen on the 11th, and so it should be pretty visible. We've also got an appulse or a grouping of the Moon, Saturn, and Jupiter to look forward to on the 10th. And for those of you that are interested in seeing the eclipsing binary algol, there's a good opportunity on November 14th, where it reaches its minimum locally here around 6:36 p.m. So if you get out around supper time, take a note of its brightness then, and then come back a few hours later around 9, you'll see it resume and return to its normal brightness as it leaves eclipse. Just in terms of that conjunction, or not a conjunction exactly, but a grouping of Jupiter, Saturn, and the Moon. They are roughly about 10 degrees or so apart. They're part. All of them are in the constellation Capricornus. So that's a nice bright star pattern towards the horizon, and it will make a nice viewing opportunity there. It's also an opportunity to check out some very bright double stars, for example, Algeti and Prima Giri, which are part of Capricornus and also really good in binoculars. So good opportunity to see that. And the moon will be quite young, so you should see a little bit of Earthshine there as well. And again, that is on the 10th of November. The 11th, Lunar X and the Lunar V are both expected to be visible along the terminator. So you can just see the little X here on this screen. It comes out well, and the V is also visible there. These are essentially tricks of the light, if you will, caused by specific craters and specific viewing angles that creates that illusion. And it's kind of cool because the Lunar X particularly sort of bleeds into the unlit portion of the moon and sort of stands out in a very, very visible way. November 17th to the 23rd, this is the time when the deep sky people put on their imaging filters and otherwise have to let it go for a bit as we hit the full moon around this period of time, and it moves towards waning gibbous over this period of time. So the moon is expected to be quite bright. The Leonids, which are a famously variable meteor shower, are not expected to be very impressive this year. They're supposed to be on the 17th. Obviously, with the nearly full moon, there's going to be extremely strong lunar interference. So if you are interested in trying to see them, if you get a clear a heads up that there's going to be some clear skies on the 18th, then pre-dawn might be a good opportunity to see if you can catch a few Leonids. And the ISS returns to Toronto's evening sky around the 17th, and there's some good passes expected around the 17th. Of course, the big highlight this month is there's a lunar eclipse. So the lunar eclipse is expected to happen on the 19th. Pretty well, we can count on it. It's one of those things, and I'm just going to go and open this link here. Come on, link. Hold on. Bing. All right. If I go here, there we go. That's better. Sorry about that. So we go in terms of this site here, timeanddate.com. I find it's really, really cool. And what this animation shows us is it shows us an animation of the entire event. So what happens is we have the Earth's penumbra, which is the outer shadow, starts to come in across the moon. The penumbra needs to kind of go almost halfway across in order for you to start seeing this subtle effect. But then when we hit the umbra, the real shadow, then it becomes quite noticeable. Now this is marked as a partial eclipse, so it's not quite complete. So you see that little bit there left over, that is what makes it a partial eclipse. But look how much eclipse we're getting. It's really, really a very, very deep partial eclipse. and you should certainly see a change in color, maybe a little bit of a diamond ring effect with that part of the moon that's going to be left outside of the Earth, out of the umbra. And then the whole show will be ending roughly around dawn on the following day. So we have a great opportunity to see the eclipse. And this is actually a treat for almost everyone across Canada, including our friends tonight from Winnipeg and so forth. And it's visible in the United States as well. So everybody on this call pretty well will be able to enjoy this when it comes up. Now, some of the things about this, of course, from Toronto, this is a morning event. 1 o'clock in the morning is when the early penumbral phase starts. And again, you won't see, pretty subtle, you don't see that very clearly or very obviously. The partial eclipse, when the moon starts to get that big bite out of it through the umbra, then that starts to be noticed around 2 o'clock. So if I were setting my alarm, I'd be setting it for like 1:45 in the morning or something. Maximum eclipse at 4 in the morning, and then the partial phase ends around 5:45 in the morning, by which time you can go and get your coffee. So that's the overall area there. And now, one of the things to bear in mind is the altitude. So the maximum eclipse will be about 34 degrees up. It'll be over when it gets down to 15 degrees, and from Toronto, the whole event ends when it's at 3.4 degrees. By that point, we won't really see that you won't really see the difference, but the moon will be so close to the horizon, you won't be able to see it very well. So you make sure that you get out there early and don't leave it late. Now, one of the things that I noted about this is just in terms of what kind of where it's going to be. And our old friends here, M45 and the Hyades, are really quite close to where the moon is going to be during this eclipse. So during the period of the eclipse, the moon is just going to basically move a little bit along here. But with a wide field camera lens and a little bit of planning, I think there's a great opportunity here for a truly nice astrophoto with say a 24 or a 30 millimeter lens and a little bit of preparation, especially if you get a nice foreground composition with these objects all together, could be quite nice. So I would encourage you. The nice thing about a lunar eclipse is it's a pretty slow moving event. You've got a fair bit of time there to work on getting your photo just right, and you can take your time and put that together, and maybe you'll have something worthy of putting in a calendar or something like that next year, or perhaps framing in your own living room. I wanted to just point out that we've got a great opportunity for a pretty good occultation coming up this month on the 19th of November as well. So asteroid 2407 Hog will be occulted. It's going to be 57 degrees high in the east, which is pretty high, 11:30 at night, and a Friday. So all of those things are good attributes in an occultation. It's not a work night. It's fairly high up. The duration is about 2 seconds, and it's 10th magnitude, which makes it pretty bright as these things go. Just looking at some of the details on this. This is the asteroid here, this occultation. If you look at the online map here, the path is predicted to go pretty well straight over Toronto. So it's basically going to parallel the 401. That's the green line here. And the expected path of the asteroid, or the expected shadow of the asteroid, is between the two blue lines. So you can see almost everybody in the greater Toronto area has got an opportunity to see this asteroid. Currently, we've got 4 observers who are planning to try and take in this event. If we look at some of the details in terms of where it is on the web here, if we look at the wide field of view, it's just, again, there's those Hyades again, and the Pleiades. So again, everything seems to be happening around there this month. And we have the constellation Auriga. So Beta Auriga is this bright star. That's the one that is in question. And so should be pretty easy to go to Beta Auriga and then just star hop your way to the occultation site. And you could even take this in with a pair of binoculars and see if you can spot it. So essentially the star in question is just a little bit away from Beta Auriga, halfway between here and this star over here. So I would encourage everybody who's interested to try and get out there and take it in. It could be a very good occultation. And just getting into the last week of the month here. So things start to return to darkness as the moon starts to move away. We've got Ceres reaches opposition, its brightest point. The ISS evening passes continue. And I wanted to mention too that there are sunspots again on the sun. Solar cycle 25 is underway. We're starting to get regular sunspots appearing. There were a couple just yesterday. So if it doesn't look good for observing at night, you could observe during the day if you're really interested in taking in the sun. One other thing I wanted to highlight was catching transits of ISS. I talked about this in my last presentation, but I thought it would be nice. I realized that the website has been updated, so I just wanted to sort of show you how this looks here. So you put in your location and everything. So this green marker here marks where I'm at. But what you can do here is you can click on this next button and see all of the ISS passes that are close to you over the period of the entire month. So this is showing me here that there's a solar transit predicted over Toronto, and on the center line, it's going to look roughly like that. Here is a transit of the space station over the moon when it's at this phase, and I would need to drive up towards Lake Simcoe to see that one. Here is another transit again, roughly the same time of month, similar location, only closer to home, and another solar transit here across. Now, this site is providing transit information for both the Tiangong space station as well as ISS. So this is a Tiangong pass. This is an ISS pass. So both of those are worth seeing. And if you are observing either the moon or the sun with appropriate equipment, then you're able to spot these events. The space station takes less than a second or so to go across the face of this moon or the sun, but it's pretty obvious, and it's a pretty cool thing to see if you can catch it on its way. So that is catching an ISS transit. And just wrapping up a little bit here, so deep sky in November. I've covered off a number of things here, but I would be remiss in not mentioning that there are some nice good things to see in the deep sky. Chris Vaughn's article in Sky News for December and November has some great suggestions here for some deep sky objects that you can see that are not on the Messier list. So the Iris Nebula, Mu Cepheus, the Herschel's Garnet Star, and also in Cepheus, Pac-Man Nebula and Cassiopeia, and the double cluster, of course, in Perseus. All of these are not Messier objects, but all of them are worth seeing. And so with that, I'm just going to wrap up and see if there's any questions for the sky this month as seen from Toronto.
Thank you so much, Dennis, for a great presentation covering a lot of topics. And let's go to Emma. Do we have any questions for Dennis?
Yes, we have one question coming in from Eric. Is Prima Gedi one of the star systems in the Dune movie?
I think it is. I think, isn't that the Harkonnen homeworld? Might be. Yeah. I'll have to read the book again.
Thank you.
Anything else?
No more questions?
Okay, great. Thank you very much, Paul.
Good. Thank you, Dennis. Great job as usual.